The Titan moves aimlessly through the nameless asteroid belt, its main drive dormant after the jump, short-range propulsors doing little more than stabilizing its indecisive meanderings. Its colossal hull ripples faintly with impact tremors as it occasionally collides with the itinerant swarm of metal-veined rock around it, a minor irritation for the massive Exodus-class ship that causes no lasting damage. Inside its cavernous corridors, the dull thudding of the cosmic Mirage rings hollow and makes the less seasoned members of Creed O'Brien's salvaging crew flinch involuntarily. "Way I see it, we got ourselves a thrice-blessed confluence of interests here," Creed says, his voice deep and soothing over the rumbling reverberations. "You want to figure out what happened on this here old hunk of junk? Well, I sure am fixin' like Dixon to find out what's left out there, but..." He pauses, considering his next words carefully, and runs a hand through his grizzled white beard. Echo Sedano, back turned to the scar-faced old man, one leg propped up on the stasis capsule in front of her, pulls the straps of her polymer plate bracers tight against her wrist, and reaches into a storage compartment to retrieve the final piece of her field kit, a precision rifle, from her former resting place. She has traded the loose jumpsuit for a ballistic mesh bodysuit with reinforced arm and leg guards and a camo weave inlay, its surface wavering reflexively as the passive chromatophores come to life and adapt to their surroundings. Shouldering the gun's strap and closing the compartment with a deliberate final click, she turns around to face Creed. "Spit it out," she says, sensing his hesitation. He squints at the sleek and very lethal long-range subsonic mass acceleration weapon now slung across her back. "Case in point," he says. "That's a hell of a gun. And begging your pardon in advance and meaning no disrespect, but I don't want that thing at my back without some assurances." Echo shrugs. "Understood. Sure. People still do pinky swears around here?" Creed grins. "Sorta." He reaches into a canvas utility bag strapped to his thigh and produces a combat knife with an exaggerated theatrical flourish. "Don't tell me you're cutting me up for some blood brother ritual with..." Her voice teeters off as she stares at the peculiar blade of the weapon. Black in a way that the mere label of the color fails to do justice to, where, as the residual light of the Titan's emergency lighting touches its surface, it simply disappears. "Black iron," Creed says. "Let me clue you in." Hello friends, Anderson here, welcome to Forge Rats, episode 2, Derelict. This is the second episode of an Ironsworn Starforged actual play podcast, which is pretty slow paced and story heavy, but I won't be skimping on the action, and it's out on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and a bunch of other places. Liking, following, commenting, subscribing helps a lot, you know the drill, thanks for that. Now, let's get right to it. The fiction seems to indicate that it's finally time to swear an iron vow, but since we're at the top of the session, let's address the session moves first. As we begin our session, we set our content flag, which in my case means I do not outright exclude any topic, but will narratively pan away from the majority of negative isms you can think of and draw the line well before overt displays of sexual or psychological violence. Next up, a quick recap of the previous session. And a very quick memory refresher. Last session, Echo woke up from a 200-year stasis in the Exodus ship Titan, which, for reasons we do not yet know, arrived with a few centuries of delay in the Forge cluster, the new home of a bunch of human refugees. Creed O'Brien, a salvager who is after the Mirage FTL drive that powers the Titan, is the one that wakes her from stasis sleep inadvertently. Echo, Creed, and his crew fight a haywire medical drone together. Echo realizes how much time has passed, and Creed fills her in a bit, and here we are. So, we've already set the scene in the opener, so that's our begin the session move done. Don't need to set the scene any further, and we also don't need to spotlight a new danger or situation yet, because we do have enough for fictional framing and we are still in the inciting incident phase. So let's swear that iron vow now. And by that specifically we mean we swear to help Creed reach the FTL drive of the Titan and recover whatever parts of it are recoverable. In exchange for him giving us and our ship, the Ghost, that is also somewhere here on the Titan, a lift off the Titan. I would class that to be a dangerous vow for the simple reason that while the Titan is vast and inscrutable, I think I wanted to keep the majority of its secrets a while longer, and so I'd like the expedition into the Titan that we need to do for this vow to be a bit superficial. Exploring the whole thing would probably be epic, but Echo knows the layout, the vow and the expedition, which we'll get to later, will thus be dangerous, as we're just trying to move from medical to engine without any detours. So let's roll plus heart and add +1 as we swear our vow to a connection of ours and see where it goes. I roll a weak hit, which means we begin our quest with a complication and take +1 momentum, putting us at +9. Wow, that went quick. All right. Creed holds the blade out to Echo, pommel first, who grabs it and runs a finger gingerly along the edge. The armored mesh of her glove buzzes slightly at the touch. Now then, Creed says, we don't value contracts around here all that high if our lives hinge on them, as a general rule. You're a soldier, you understand oaths, yeah? This is one of them, one cast in iron. Echo grimaces. I'm not much for ceremony. And yet she lays her hand palm down upon the blade. It's cold to the touch, even through the fabric of the glove. But I'll get you to the engine deck without putting a hole in the back of your heads, and you do your thing and get me and my ship out of here. For what it's worth, you've got my word. Deal. Good enough? Creed nods, his expression solemn. His crew, arranged in a half circle around him, looks equally somber. One of them, Solo, Echo recalls hearing the others refer to him, positively glowers at her. Good enough, we'll work on the gravitas, Creed frowns. And as for what it's worth, well, the way I see it, and again, I mean no disrespect, I sure don't, but you're a long ways away and a couple centuries past the expiration date of any chain of command, any mission, any purpose of whatever you once was. Clothes on your back, your ordnance, them's just things. Your word's all you have, all you are here and now, so for what it's worth about as much as you. You're Ironsworn now, sister. You dig? Now it's Echo's turn to frown. She keeps her silence. She digs. Atta girl. Keep the blade. Thanks. She snatches the sheath from the air as Creed tosses it to her and fixes it to her harness, sliding the knife home.
Now wait up a second here.
Solo's voice, hoarse and nasal at the same time, holds a thoroughly unpleasant timbre. His face, long, drawn and unshaven, wears a look of demonstrative unhappiness to match the petulant quaver of his intonation.
Boss, all you do's and whatnots, but I don't know this Josie from Adam, and she ain't telling us much of any damn use sides from classifieds this and hush hush that. So far as I'm concerned, no, not good enough. Not by a long damn shot it ain't.
Solo stalks forward, putting himself between Creed and Echo, and points an oily fingertip at her face. Echo's Tau, her tactical assistance overlay, projects a threat matrix outline around his strained silhouette. In passing, she notes he pronounces it atom, as in the particle. The biblical connotation must have mutated out over the course of the last 2 centuries. Hostility detected. Recommendation, Ukigoshi Pacification Protocol. She decides to pass on whipping out the judo hip toss for the moment, her Tau not always entirely clued in on the fineries of human discourse, and holds Solo's gaze.
You're not coming anywhere with us till you spill the deeds on why you're here and what you're up to.
He turns to Creed, his expression turning pleading.
For all we know, she gets us to the engine room and ices us there, boss.
Creed maintains a stoic facade, inscrutable in the shadow of his hat brim. Are those the nose, Solo? And I'm sure glad you remember who's boss around here. Still, he sighs and rubs his chin. Ironsworn or not, he's right on one count. Why don't we all relax a touch and you spin us a little yarn about yourself to get us all off on the right foot? So how about that complication? I figure having one of the crew pop up as a bit of a contrarian with trust issues is the most likely scenario here. It's purely based off of the situation at hand. Now it seems Creed expects us to say something that can reassure Solo and to a lesser extent Creed and the rest of the crew. But the problem is Echo has no idea what her mission parameters were supposed to be. As far as I'm interpreting how her presence on the ship here came about, she had the parameters embedded in her augment. and was put in a stasis coffin before she even entered the Titan for its last journey. She'll know the overall layout of the Titan and the fact that it was a military ship and not a colony vessel on a special mission of some kind, but since her augment is telling her that her mission parameters have expired, she can't access them anymore, so she's out of luck on that front. I figure we can go for a compel move here to see whether the truth gets us some reprieve from Solo. She'll give him the rundown of how little she knows and why, and hopes to get the point across convincingly. Let's roll plus heart and see how it turns out. It turns out to be a miss. Ouch. Well, that means we need to pay the price, so let's see here. I always like to roll on tables if they're available, and I think we got enough options to accommodate for whatever result we get from the pay the price table, so let's roll a percentage dice here and figure out what other issue arises. 47, a new enemy is revealed. Well, I think I have an idea how that might play out. Nice. Not much to tell, says Echo. I'm Auxspec. I get mission specs on site through the augment. She taps her temple irritably. About 200 years ago they put me in a box, stuck the box on a ship, and you know the rest. My Aux not letting me take a peek in the mission specs. Figure circumstances have changed a little. Access denied.
Bullshit.
Solo's spittle flies past Echo's face as he rounds on her. Her Tau flares up warnings and tactical advice, but she pays it no mind. Hey, easy now, brother, Creed tries, but his natural authority is no match for whatever cocktail of paranoia and synthamphetamine Solo is cruising on. Eyes flaring with rage, he raises a janky-looking laser pistol and brings the muzzle up against Echo's forehead. Her Tau supplies an analysis of measured reaction time, suspected twitch fiber ratio in Solo's arm musculature, and suggested course of action, most of which comes down to some way of putting a new orifice into his head.
Try again.
So I feel like while Echo is poised in general, there might also be limits to what she's willing to put up with, and this might be where a show of strength of sorts is required. I think we'll rely on her nimbleness here and have her do a face danger roll based off our Tau's hints that Solo is probably a little on the slower side than her. I figure on his own he's a troublesome foe, but he can still do damage, and particularly since he's part of the crew, we don't know how they would react to an actual damaging altercation here. So Echo will be looking to disarm him without hurting him too badly. Well, outside of his pride, that is, which is pretty much guaranteed to make him a lasting enemy, which is what the dice told us to make him into after all. So we face danger with edge. Ooh, and a strong hit. Well, we maximize our momentum, plus 10 now, and back to the fiction we go. Luminescent readouts flashing brightly across the UI overlay inside her cornea. Echo keeps her eyes fixed on Solo's and waits for her moment. The Tau registers minute details, keeping tabs on body tension, breathing cycle, pheromone output, all bundled up in a risk assessment that, once the augment deems Solo to be at his slowest, weakest, least attentive, warns Echo that the time to strike is now. The Tau floods her with an electrifying hormone cocktail as she flexes her hips, generating torsion as she twists aside, brings her head out of the line of fire and her shoulder up, catching Solo's chin and sending him stumbling. Her hands come up, locking around his now flailing gun arm, bending back his wrist and catching the falling weapon in one well-practiced, fluid motion that ends with Solo on the floor, his own gun pressed uncomfortably into his crotch. "Do I have your attention, shitbrain?" Echo feels a hand gently clasp around her shoulder. "You've made your point, girl," Creed says. "And much as I'd approve the notion of preventing Solo from spreading into the gene pool, I'm afraid he's already spawned a couple of brats, so mind taking that gun away from there? I think we've got our answer, haven't we?" A quiet mumble of assent from the rest of the crew. Echo hears a faint crackling sound and realizes Solo is gritting his teeth. She clicks the safety on and tosses the piece of junk across the room onto the pile of refuse that constitutes all that remains of the malfunctioning medical drone. "Now it's my turn not wanting that thing at my back." Creed sighs. "Get up, Solo, and leave the gun. What's the matter with you? Keep an eye on him, rest of you." So I think we can consider that dealt with for now, but even disarmed, we can assume that whenever the dice pitch us a complication, this fine gentleman is going to make another move on Echo. He's just not that into her, or, well, if he is, he certainly has a way of showing it. This would actually be a neat opportunity to implement time until Solo snaps completely as a tension clock, which is a nice new sort of forged in the dark-like mechanism in Starforged. But I don't want to completely bog it down here with this relatively minor failed roll outcome, so we'll table it for now and leave whatever it is Solo does up to the twists and turns of the dice. We just know he's there and he's mad. Oh, and to put a final cap on that seed, in case you're wondering why I didn't roll for a name for Solo, I came up with the name because in my initial draft of the dialogue for that scene, I had him say the rather ill-advised line, "That's not how the forge works." And yeah, that's a bit too on the nose and corny even for me, so the line went, but the name stayed, in perhaps the most backhanded compliment tribute imaginable. Now, expedition time. We want to help Creed reach the engine core of the Titan safely and recover it. As we've established, this is a dangerous expedition as Echo knows the layout and they're aiming to take a direct route with little to no extra exploration. So let's assume once things settle down, everyone's got their kit and caboodle and we trundle off to roll up our first undertake and expedition result. And since we conveniently happen to be the local guide, we're in charge of the route, so we get to make the roll instead of trailing behind the NPCs. We use wits, I think, with this group since stealth seems a bit unlikely, so here goes. Okay, a weak hit. We mark 2 progress on the progress tracker sheet I have in front of me here and figure out what else happens. We can choose. We suffer a cost in the form of 1 -2 suffer move or 2 -1 suffer moves, or we face a peril at the waypoint. Since it sounds like a lot more fun, we'll of course go with the peril, so that brings us to the waypoint. Where are we headed here? Let's ask the Oracle what zone we're moving into, since we treat medical where we woke up for the purpose of this exploration as if it was access. 35, living quarters. Okay, now we can determine what area of the living quarters we are moving into. 88. New zone. Okay, so I read that as we make it through the living quarters relatively unscathed, but just as we're about to transition into the next zone, we encounter something perilous. What is the next zone then? Let's roll on that zone chart again. 75 operations. Oh-ho. So we're in transit from living and still in living to operations as we run into a peril. Let's now roll up the peril. 11. A distressing written message. Oh no. Well, that's probably gonna attack our spirit again, all things considered. And also, I really have no clue what actually happened to make everyone aboard the Titan disappear, so filling that message with content might need some help. But hey, maybe the message gives us a first clue what happened here. So let me also just roll up next to the area. We're in a feature of the area that helps us flesh things out a little on the feature table. 09. Audible music. Well, that's just creepy. I dig it. And lastly, yeah, to get a grip on the content and nature of the message, I'd say we need to do an action and theme oracle roll to figure out what direction this is taking. So I'm rolling action and theme concurrently. That is 187 and 188. What an interesting pairing of die rolls, 87 and 88. That means 87 serve and 88 technology. Serve as in S-E-R-V-E, not the riding waves thing. Serve technology. Neat. Okay, now what do I make of serve technology? Oh yeah, here we go. What layout we looking at here, Echo? I'm guessing the drive's a ways off if this is ops coming up, past the stasis quarters for the settlers. No settlers, Echo says. Creed doesn't look particularly surprised at this. The last couple of hours trudging through vaulted corridors and climbing down shafts made it clear to him that this isn't an ordinary Exodus vessel. Even these living quarters look too neat, too Spartan. This isn't a colony ship, Echo continues. Creed rubs the nape of his neck thoughtfully. And these quarters? Crew? Crew, scientists mostly, I'm guessing. Probably some Navy top brass too. If you're as much of an Exodus fleet buff as you claim to be, you should have figured out by now that the Titan was never an official part of it. Creed winks at her. Grokked that the minute I laid eyes on her. Doesn't even look right, leastways not like the blueprint layouts I got of the others. Names in none of the jump logs, manifests, nothing. Nowhere, no way, no how, neither. No Titan. Echo's attempt at a reply is cut off by a stifled gasp from out front. She brings up her Gauss rifle as the Tau zeroes in on the source of the noise. Let's quickly roll up on the naming table a name for a person. We get up to 50 male, 51 plus female, matches identifying as neither. What do we have? 81, Ria, a woman. The Tau throws a yellow outline around Ria, who is walking point for the last 10 minutes. It flashes body language interpretations around her silhouette, indicating distress. Echo takes a few steps forward, pulling up next to her at the corridor junction that had brought Ria to a halt. As she steps closer, she hears the faint, ethereal chime of a musical melody tinkling through the stale air and briefly wonders how many years, how many centuries this jarringly jaunty melody has broken the silence of the mute mausoleum the Titan has become. Sensing Echo next to her, Ria points down the corridor. It ends at a set of circular pressure doors marked Operations. This is not, however, the only marking it bears. Scrawled all over it in repulsive, moldy black is a litany of repetitive absurdity, repeating over and over again the words, "We are Titan, we are Titan, we are Titan." Keeping her coil gun stock pressed to her shoulder, Echo moves in on the door. "What the devil?" Creed says. His voice is close and Echo senses him a mere few steps behind her. They reach the door, straining to listen for sounds over the scintillating background melody and hearing nothing. Creed's hand hovers a few fingers width over the scrawl as he tries to make sense of it. "Looks organic. Blood?" He sniffs. "Pus? Some kind of gore?" The Tau scans the composition of material that makes up the disconcerting message and finds that it is composed of a repulsive variety of sources. Blood, indeed, plus feces, mucus, and other bodily excretions. "All of the above and then some," says Echo. Behind her, Ria retches uncomfortably. "Looks like mold," Creed says. "Everyone got their masks up?" A murmur of assent from behind. The Tau runs a superficial analysis of the particles covering the biological waste forming the basis of the script. It returns an inconclusive result. "Not mold," Echo says. "Some kind of nano-organism. Might even be nanomachine clusters." Creed puts a hand on Echo's shoulder. "I think this is the part where we step away slowly." So now we've got some set pieces based off the technology prompt, nano something thingamajigs, and a creepy juxtaposition to organic life. I don't really have a plan further to just ramping up the creep factor by making the technology part about the Titan and inferring a bit of space madness as a side dressing. So as for what actually happened here, I don't think this missive alone warrants a progress marker on Echo's background vow. I'm also leaning away from making her endure stress again. It's creepy, certainly, and will set them all on edge, but we'll leave it at that and continue into operations. I also don't think they're sticking around to make the Explorer waypoint move here. They just want to get the hell out of there. So after that welcome sign, they're probably taking the long way around and entering the ops section through another set of doors. Anyway, let's continue our exploration by making the undertaken expedition move again using wits. There is a strong hit this time around. Sweet. That means we reach another waypoint. We already know it'll be operations from the previous area transition results, so let's forego the zone oracle now and roll on the area table. 41 computer core. Oh, an opportunity for more information, perhaps. This is a waypoint I think we might actually want to be exploring. Let's add a feature though. 69, a recorded message. Yikes. More creepiness, I guess. Or maybe not. We should probably do action and theme again to figure out what the message says. I'm rolling both concurrently again with 2 sets of dice. That's a 40. Escalate. Oh no. 26. Discovery. Escalate discovery. So far we've discovered the creepy message, so I guess we'll be escalating that one. More tunnels, more blast doors, and another half hour later, another entry point into operations, this one blessedly unmarked. The salvaging crew seems on edge, moving in a tighter cluster than before, with Echo taking point. She notes that Creed strategically puts himself between her and Solo at any given moment, playing it off nonchalantly but not quite succeeding. "This place is too neat," Creed says. Echo grunts in agreement. Everything is spick and span, every bit of metal shined, floors free of dirt and grime. They've passed a few maintenance drones along the way, still functional and uncorrupted, their rodent-like frames scuttling through the living quarters, tidying up after people who disappeared who knows how long ago. As they pass another set of blast doors, Echo notes a pictogram out of the corner of her eye and raises a hand, palm outstretched, bringing the crew to a halt. "System access node," she says. "Might be worth our time." Creed lets out a slow, deliberate breath. "Sure," he says. "Just so long as we don't get no more mad ravings in there, I've had my fill for the day." Echo, coilgun shouldered, swipes the wall panel to identify herself as military personnel, hoping the Titan recognizes her universal clearance level. The doors part and Creed throws his hands up in an almost comical gesture of theatrical despair in answer to the robotic voice suddenly filling the air at an ear-piercing volume over the equally grating noise of an emergency siren. "We are Titan, we are Titan, we are Titan, we are Titan, we are." The robotic voice repeats itself unchangingly, without interruption, modulating the inflection occasionally, its cadence suggesting it is stringing together sentences that have a different message, a meaning, yet all its vocabulary can offer are these three words: "We are Titan." I'm starting to catch the vibe here that maybe the Titan's got itself a virus of some sort that could be interesting, but I don't want to rule out a supernatural cause either. So I think we can assume that the Titan as an entity, a sort of core computer AI, does exist as part of a ship somewhere. So maybe this system access point is a way to communicate with it and get even more creeped out. Depending on what we roll. Let's make the explore a waypoint move here and figure out what discoveries lie within this space. We roll plus wits again, and I think our augment doesn't help us out here, so that's only a +1. We do manage a weak hit, so we uncover something interesting, but it's bound up in peril or reveals an ominous aspect of the place. Well, I feel like we already revealed the ominous part through the little Tannoy message, so let's maybe check out the Peril Oracle for operations to figure out what it's wrapped up in. 81. Sensors indicate the arrival of an external threat. Ha! Oh wow. Okay, I'll take that. That's an interesting opportunity. Echo sweeps the access node chamber, its central pillar obscuring the back part of the room, forcing her to circle around it once. She locates the control panel at the back of the node's terminal column and shuts off the distress signal. The sudden quiet is, in its own way, almost as unsettling as the nonsensical emergency communication. "Anything useful?" Creed asks. Echo takes stock. The node is tied to a variety of systems, seemingly serving as a nexus point for various observation and monitoring posts across the operations deck. Her Tau runs an analysis of the telemetry data dancing across a wall monitor and summarizes. "System integrity stable. Data integrity uncompromised. Status protocol readout. We are Titan, we are Titan, we are Titan, we are..." Echo clutches her head. "Emergency reboot," she hisses. "You say something?" Creed rounds the node's central column as Echo composes herself. "All good. Ship's fine by the look of it." "Uh-huh. Any idea where everybody is?" Echo stares over his shoulder at a live diagram of the Titan's docking bays. "Maybe just about to come back. Something just docked." "Oh Lord Almighty," Creed says. And that does it for today. We'll pick it up here next time and figure out who those visitors are. Maybe it is some crew coming back, although I kinda doubt it. I think maybe it's somebody who followed these salvagers here and have some intent for the Titan themselves, or maybe it's something that also notes the arrival of the Titan a while back and have now also made it here. So we'll figure that out next time. Thanks very much for tuning in. Catch you then, and bye for now.